Hey, Brandon. Glad to have you back, man. Welcome back to the show. How you feeling right now? How was it?
Man, I do want to tell you how glad I am to be back. Um, but we're talking about football. It's June, and man, did I enjoy the golf courses down in Myrtle Beach. I'll tell you, woo,
Not bad.
yeah. Not having to work. I kind of get my boy payday over on the homies with the 7-day weekends. Starting to understand what he's talking about.
Yeah. I gotta say, man, I'm a little jealous of you because I've yet to go on vacation so far. Obviously the summer just started, like you said, it's June, but let's just keep it honest here. Like vacation season usually begins like at the beginning of May, late April, when the weather starts to finally break. And I haven't been anywhere yet. It's just kind of disappointing me. So I need to make me a trip at some point here.
I did Chesapeake Bay. I did Myrtle Beach, and now I will be in the vicinity of home, I should say, except for a couple things for work. But those are just day trips. I'll be in the vicinity of home until football season.
Tim, when are we going to get you on the east side here? I mean, technically Ohio's a Midwest state, but we need to get you in the Cincinnati, bro.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. Like I'm so busy with work and all of our families here, and I would love to come home eventually. I'll be home eventually. I will. I'll be
You're
home
gonna see
eventually.
me. You're gonna see me on the West Coast visiting him before you see
Yeah,
him over here.
I'll
yeah.
make two of us.
And I do miss Ohio. Like I always describe to my wife. I said, fall time in Ohio is like just a beautiful orange and brown canvas because the trees, all the oak and the elms and all that are changing colors, and it's just a gorgeous view. Like here in the Pacific Northwest, we got a lot of pine trees, so all you see is green all the time. But even when the fall time comes in Ohio, it's just gorgeous, and I do miss it. And I do need to get home. I definitely do.
Definitely.
Yeah, it is nice. It is nice. But since I'm not at the golf course, I guess we'll go start the show.
No.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You are running through the jungle. I'm your host, Brandon Herriott, aka B Dirt, with your host, Justin, Lacey, and Tim Lyons. What's going on, fellas?
What to do? What to do?
It's actually nice to have the full crew this time around. Tim and I, we held it down for you last week while you were out on enjoying a much needed vacation, but we had a lot of good fun. I mean, if those didn't get a chance to tune in on our YouTube, Tim, we had a nice long discussion regarding our top 5 Bengals teams
Yeah,
of
we
all
did.
time / favorite / the best team. So it was a
Mhm.
really good, interesting conversation.
Yeah.
Yes, and I tried to remotely put this on your guys' episode on Spotify and Apple and all the podcast channels, and don't know why it didn't take. So I've got to redo that with this one as well. So some of you might be listening to back-to-back episodes right now.
Yeah, you guys missed a hell of an episode last week. Justin and I, we took our top Bengals teams and who was top 5 through one, or yeah, our top 5, excuse me. And Justin actually shared some stuff on the Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it. And my list was pretty close to theirs. Besides, I think they had 2022 in there, Justin.
They had the 20, like the tweet that you were referring to was Paul Dana and Jay Morrison's top 5
Yeah.
Bengals teams. For all those loyal diehard Bengals fans that are listening to all kinds of Bengals audio platform, podcast audios and stuff, you should be familiar with Jay Morrison's work with the Pro Football Network and Paul Dana Jr. They both host a show called The Growling, and it's very entertaining. But yeah, that was the list that was referred to, and yeah, they definitely paid homage to the '80s Bengals, number 1 and 2, sitting at the top of the list there, just like your list. But the 2021 Bengals team was on that list. I believe the 22 Bengals team was on that list as well too as theirs. But the '05 Bengals was not on that list. I think that was really funny and controversial for some Bengals fans. Again, that was a tough discussion. Not a tough discussion for me or you by any means, but because we know we've already thought about, but it was definitely a discussion that need to be had because we both were kind of like staring like, look, while we love the '05 team, there's been other teams that's came since then or even before then that were probably better if we're being honest with ourselves. So great. It was a great conversation.
Great show.
Yeah. I love it. Hopefully, if you didn't check that show out, go check that show after this one. But definitely appreciate you guys holding it down. Appreciate Austin's art, always in the building. We appreciate you rocking with us over here on the YouTube. But if you got a second, man, like, subscribe, get that first notification. Make sure you get that little bell. If you want to watch us on YouTube, we're going to be live every Wednesday, 8:05. So make sure you're here with us, rocking with us. Share it. Share it with a friend. Tell a friend. You know a Bengals fan. So get that out there. Get somebody else in here with us, chatting it up.
Yeah. And that way you don't miss a fun discussion because that's not going to be the last time we had that discussion. But it is one of the first of many discussions during this offseason when we're talking about our historic Bengals teams and stuff like that, players or whatnot. So there's going to be a number of things coming down the pipeline. So if you don't want to miss it, please, once again, like you just said, like and subscribe to the YouTube channel, ding that notification bell so you won't miss when we go live. And you can always check out our audios too when they drop on Apple and Spotify as well too. So definitely please do that.
Appreciate it. So, if you didn't look yet in the title of this, says warning, this show will be offensive. We're going to talk about everything offense. For this hour you're with us, we're going to talk about what we expect out of the Bengals. We're going to break down the position groups, any key players, any breakout players, all that kind of fun stuff of what we expect from the offense. Next week, you can check us out talking about our defense. Before we get digging into that, though, I want to start off with some news from minicamp. End of OTA started minicamp. It was nice to see some of the, it was nice to see Jamar Chase out there. It was nice to see Rankin out there. It was nice to see some of these guys back in the building with us. But I do have some questions for you, and I'll start off with you, Tim. We're going to go big deal or no deal. Burrow missed a couple of practices, sat out, and Chase is only doing walkthrough drills right now, not really participating. Even in his, single drills, he's not really participating full speed. Yeah. So what's your idea there? Big deal or no deal on either one of those?
It's June 12th. Why am I going to make a big deal about that? Jamar Chase, of course, like we always discuss, he's working out everywhere else. I'm sure there's a reason behind him not, being out there. And, I know he's limited, he's not participating in X, Y, and Z, whatever. But, honestly, if you he's not Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow's been, there for 10 weeks now. He's out there throwing and everything else. Jamar Chase has been doing his own work, his own private workouts and all this other stuff too. And I'm not saying Jamar Chase is not in shape, because from what I heard, Jamar Chase looks jacked. Like, he looks bigger than what he's looked before. So, I'm not going to say that, but I think as coaches wise, they're going, he's just returning to the facility. So let's not just have him in there blasting, right away. So I'm not worried about that. Now Joe Burrow on the go ahead, Brandon.
Go ahead.
And then on the Joe Burrow side, like I said before, like Joe Burrow said, it came from his mouth. He said he was not going to be go. If he thought something was wrong or if he just needed time off, he was going to take that time off. Just like he said in his conference yesterday, I think it was yesterday, he said, you know what, if he feels like something's not right, he's going to take some time off. But don't mean something's wrong. It just he's not going to overdo it. He even admitted that when he even mentioned the calf muscle. He goes, I was injured. I was coming back from this and that. I was overdoing it. And he goes, and look what happened. The calf muscle. He was overdoing it. He's not going to do that now. Which I've said this before. Joe Burrow, I think he is mentally maturing and knowing what his body can't do and can do, but he's being very precautious of even the stuff that he knows his body can do and can't do. So he's trying to stay healthy. We're trying to have an off season where Joe Burrow's in the house. He's not nursing, he's not coming back from a ACL tear. He's not coming back, with the calf injury,
appendicitis.
Yeah, and that's the same thing as with Jamar Chase. I think the reason why Jamar Chase ain't at 100% at camp because they want to all avoid soft tissue injuries. Soft tissue injuries can end your career or end the season for you, and you'll never recover throughout the whole season. Look at Joe Burrow's calf. Look at T. Higgins. We don't want that to happen to Jamar Chase. We don't want that to happen again to Joe Burrow. So, you know what? Like I said, I'm not making a big deal about it. I'm glad to see it. I'm glad to see that they're easing into things.
No deal it is on both those subjects for you. Justin, I'll throw it over to you. Big deal, no deal. Burrow sitting out, Chase doing walkthroughs and not really participating full out. What are your thoughts on it?
So if you guys tuned in to last week's episode, Tim and I had discussed this as well too when we talked about load management for Burrow. Obviously, that is starting to become a swirling conversation, and people are getting a little worried. There's been some injuries that stacked up across his little short-term career so far, and people are concerned. I'm not. I'm not there, and I won't be there for quite some time. I get it. It's kind of annoying, to see him in this season 50% of the time on IR. But at the end of the day, those are freak accidents that happen. It was a catastrophic knee injury for his rookie season. And then for the other one, if that would have not been his throwing hand, he still would have played. He would have played through it. Maybe not would have won the Super Bowl or got to the Super Bowl or, things like that of the things we come to expect from a guy like Joe Burrow. But he still would have played. He would have fought through that pain. But my takeaway is when he gave his conversation at the press conference and he was at the podium and is talking about a lot of things. He's self-aware of what he needs to do to kind of make sure that he takes care of his body, listen to his body more. And that's what you want out of your quarterback. So somebody that can just be self-aware, realize that, man, I don't always have to push it 100 miles an hour every single time. Last year, and then here's the crazy part about it is that we love it when he does push himself to the limits because all these stories that you hear about the all-time greats, what do they say? You have to have a relentless work ethic. Joe Burrow has that relentless work ethic that we're talking about. And we're not hearing some of these Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant like stories, but he probably already do stuff like that. And these workout stories and regimes is what I'm saying, what I mean when I say that. He's probably already doing stuff like that we just don't know about because it's not blasted on social media. He's not trying to gain clout like that. He's a very private person, but he also knows his stance as being a franchise face of the franchise quarterback for the Cincinnati Bengals. And anything that he says and anything that he does is going to come on a microscope because it's Joe Burrow. Him taking a couple of days off means absolutely nothing to me. In fact, I want him to. Sure, we want to see him light it up on fire by throwing these highlight reel like passes in OTAs and in minicamp. But trust and rest assured that we know Burrow can do that. And it's only a matter of time when he starts showing that stuff again, like when training camp rolls around. He's just trying to get himself ready for week 1 of this upcoming season. So no big deal with that at all for me. And then for Jamar Chase, Sorry about that. I had a cough and I didn't want anybody to hear me. So, and for Jamar Chase, once again, at this point of his career, he's a seasoned veteran. 4 years, he's going into year 4. Him and Joe Burrow are attached to the hip. The level of importance that he brings to the offense is absolutely extreme. Without Jamar, the offense suffers a little bit. Yeah, you still got Joe Burrow, but then you're relying on other people to fill the void of explosiveness when they haven't really proved it yet. Sure, we still got T. Higgins, but T. Higgins is not even in camp right now. And quite frankly, he's not supposed to be when he's not in the contract with his contract situation going on. But nonetheless, I don't have any doubts or any worries that Jamar Chase won't be fine. He will absolutely be fine. He's already working out, like Tim mentioned before, on his own and working out at a high level. And you saw it on media day when he's posing pictures and stuff in his Bengal uniform. The dude looks ripped. And quite frankly, he's always been that way. He's always been a guy that works himself off, works his butt off every time. And you know that he's going to come ready to go day one to kind of help the rest of the guys be able to get on that level too when week 1 rolls around for the regular season. So once again, that's a no deal for me.
Well, Austin's art here says, me neither. I think the rest days are good for him, and I think they are beneficial for him being the best he can be for the season. He put that in the chat when you were talking about Joe Burr. Couldn't agree with you guys more. No big deal to me. I actually think two things. One, you hear the cliche, you have to protect an athlete from himself. I was a pretty good high school player in baseball and played college ball at a small school in Ohio. Not a professional athlete, not anything like these guys are talking about, but I could rewind where I partially tore a tendon in my elbow because I needed to be protected from myself because I pitched. Somebody didn't want to pitch that day, and I said, get off the mound. And I just threw. And I shouldn't have because I had thrown, 2 days prior to that I'd pitched. I shouldn't have, but no one really protected me from myself in that situation. So I understand these guys, like, you get it, you're nagging injuries or whatever, and you feel invincible. When you're in really good physical condition, you're working a pro athlete. These guys, like you said, are chiseled, they're rocks, everybody looks great. You have a bunch of Adonises for the most part walking around out there. They feel like they're invincible. So to me, coaching staff has to keep putting that in their mind. Front office needs to be putting that in their mind. Their agents need to be putting that in their mind. When you're paying $275 million for an asset, that asset needs to be available to you.
Yep.
So I think it shows a maturity level for Joe Burrow to get that and know when and what to work through or work around. And I think we're starting to see some of that where he's, comes back to practice after a couple of days off and reports are he's not throwing with the same velocity as he was in mini camps or whatever. I don't care.
Right.
He had wrist surgery. If you've ever had a major surgery at all, there's always some sort of setback. There's always some sort of thing. And if you have surgery on your wrist, it may have you putting more pressure on your shoulder, or may have you doing something a little bit odd. The workouts, and I'm sure he's doing a bunch of band exercises, all those kind of things. You never know what the issue is, if it's causing something else or not causing something else.
Put it this way.
Jamar, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I'll let you take about the Jamar real quick, but put it this way. You hear what's going on with Aaron Rodgers right now in the New York media? He's not even available for any of the activities, their OTA program. I think he was there for that. But minicamp started, he's not even nowhere to be found. I mean, he's taking his own time off. You hear what's going on with Anthony Richardson and how he hasn't feel like that he's at 100%. And he had his injury much sooner than Joe Burrow. So with that being said, I think people got to calm. More or less, I'm talking directly to the Bengals fans here, our fellow Bengals fans here that is always just have to just basically watch over everything that is being said about Joe Burrow, putting that fear in your heads. It's all fear-based arguments. If there was major concerns, I truly believe that we wouldn't necessarily know right now, but I think that Joe Burrow would honestly come out and say something, maybe not to the media, but he would be open and honest in regarding like if his health was not in the best it could be right then and there. But I will take Joe Burrow in the situation that he has coming into this minicamp more so than the other guys that I just previously mentioned. But sorry, go ahead and continue, Brandon.
I will say with Jamar Chase, as far as Jamar Chase is concerned or whatever, everybody's talked about how he looks physically in better shape than he ever has been. It looks like he put on some muscle. Is anybody concerned on June 12th that Jamar Chase may not be ready for the start of the season?
Right.
Are we kidding? The dude sat out his last year at college and came to the NFL and set a rookie receiving record. Come on. Like, I'm good. I'm good with Jamar Chase. I'm good with both of them and what they're going on. I think more of the issue is not what's going on at Bengals minicamp, but what's going on at Bengals media. Everybody that's got a podcast got to find something to talk about. So here we are.
Yeah. I
don't know. No deal here. Keep it pushing. Everybody, it's just noise to me. But I saw a couple other things at minicamp that were interesting. Either of you have seen anything or had reports out there that caught your eye? I'll throw it right back to you, Justin. You got anything that something caught your eye or want to keep an eye on maybe?
I didn't want to necessarily spoil this because I know that next week we're going to be talking about the defense, but I think it's worth noting and mentioning, and I'll be quick and brief with this.
Drop the hint. Just drop the hint, though.
I mean, I'm going to come out right and say it. I mean, we'll obviously dive more deeper.
But save the meat of the sandwich for them.
It's Dax Hill. Dax Hill playing cornerback.
Very interesting.
It seems like that he is coming along nicely. And again, it's minicamp. He's forming himself to be rounding out pretty well. He's having a nice minicamp so far. And he seems like he's putting the work in and embraced the role change the position change. And we'll see how that works out for him. But the early buzz that I'm hearing about it is it's going pretty well so far. And that's what you want to hear. Yeah. And another thing, sticking with the same position group, Josh Newton, also known as Fig Newton.
Yeah.
He's also doing some pretty good things too as well. So that's what I'm hearing. I mean, the viral moment that he had, his goal moment when Chad Johnson came in and visited him during their OTAs and he went against him one-on-one and kind of just shoved him, knocked him off his route. And everybody was just so excited for the kid. And it was great. It was good stuff when you saw, but I'm not going to try to make too much of that, but nonetheless, it just shows that this dude is hungry. And no matter where his draft position was, he's wanting to come in and make an impact on his team and be the best that he possibly can right away. So I'm excited for those two guys, Dax Hill and Fig Newton, man. I'm excited to see what they can do.
Yeah.
Tim, what about you? You see anything at minicamp so far or hear anything that's got you piqued your interest?
From what I'm hearing, there's going to be some wide receiver competition coming up.
Woo.
Yeah. You know,
we're gonna dive into that after this commercial break, but for sure, okay. You're 100%.
Yeah, there's some competition coming on, so you know that's what I'm impressed to see because you know we know the situation what's going on in Cincinnati with T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd left and stuff, so it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, the biggest thing to me, the biggest takeaway from that I've heard or seen so far is some of these wide receivers, Cedric came in probably another 10, 15 pounds of muscle.
Yep.
We've already talked about Jamar Chase. Yoshi.
Yep.
Jacked.
They say Charlie Jones is looking good too.
Charlie Jones put on a little bit of weight, which he needed.
Yeah.
So I think the wide receiver room seems to have the right mindset and starting to put on some muscle mass, and I like that. Yeah. So that's kind of my biggest takeaway so far. But with that said, we are going to take a quick break. If you are watching on YouTube, we'll just have a few seconds, just enough time for you to hit that thumbs up and then skip the next one to your right and hit the share button just past that. Share it with a friend. If you're listening to us on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcast, we appreciate you. Make sure you subscribe, get that first notification, and we will be right back after a word from our sponsors. Welcome back to Runnin Thru the Jungle. Once again, I am your host, Brandon Herriott, with your host, Tim Lyons and Justin Lacey. We appreciate you rocking it with us.
Yes.
As always, lots of people out there talking about Cincinnati Bengals. It's a new hot team again. So I've seen a lot of stuff sprouting out there. We've been fans for a long time. Tim and I a little longer than Justin, but that's because he's not old.
Just a little bit.
He ain't got no gray yet.
False. You can't really see it, but it's buried deep in there.
Two hairs right there. All right.
Yeah, so it's getting there. I don't like it, and I'll be wanting to try to bury it and cut it because I'm not ready here yet.
Bro, embrace it. Justin, embrace it. Women love their men with grays, and my wife tells me that all the time, honey, you got grays all over. Just embrace it, bro. Embrace it.
And I understand the silver fox look, but for me, it's not a silver fox. It's not even a silver kitten. It's a couple of specks of salt in a sea of black pepper so far. It just stands out.
Listen, you don't want to take advice about beauty from me and Tim. Our ladies are not with us because of the way we look. We're just going to leave it at that. We're going to keep this pushing.
We got a great personality. That's why.
Yeah, wonderful personalities.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, it's not our money or our looks. Something else, but I don't know what. So we're going to keep staying offensive here. Love being offensive. It's big fan of being offensive. So I want to talk about real quick. I want to talk about offensive expectations, and kind of an umbrella view here. Now, if you want to take it to, you expect the passing game to be better this year. You expect bigger chunk plays. You expect better running games, or overall, you expect us to be a top 5, top 10, top 15 offensive. Where do you see, what expectations do you guys have here for the Bengals going into this season? What kind of you're really holding on to that you expect to see from this group? Justin, we'll throw it right back to you since you're in the captain's chair. What's your expectations for this offense this year?
So when it comes to the offense, it's really kind of tough because it's like they've already shown a lot of great things over the last few years. And I even include last season, even though it didn't go the way that we hoped to have gone as Bengal fans. But there was a stretch during 5 games where it just felt like that this team just couldn't be stopped. And it felt like that, yeah, they're coming and you better strap up because when the Bengals come to town or when you have to go to the jungle, team's going to have a long day preparing for us, So it's tough though to kind of set those expectations on a year-to-year basis. I will just go with this. I do expect them to evolve past the 11 personnel on offense that spread them out 3 or 5 wide, and then just letting Joe Burrow pick his poison and always taking shotgun snaps and trying to just find the open man from there. And I just need them to evolve a little bit past that, a little bit beyond that. Still could implement a lot of that what you do on a day-to-day. What was refreshing to hear Joe Burrow state in his press conference yesterday is that one of the questions that came to him about, like, what are you doing to prepare for how defenses try to attack you and stuff and how they game plan for you? Do you have anything in mind or how you going to prepare for that? And his answer was basically simple. We're not worried about how they're game plan for us. Now, don't get me wrong. In the past, we had to adjust to how defenses played us. But now I feel like that we're more confident that we're going to be the ones to dictate how these things go. And that's the expectation that I'm setting. It's like them early Peyton Manning years with the Indianapolis Colts. In the early 2000s, on a year-to-year basis, he was always explosive. Sure, his quarterback numbers wasn't as high as one year. Like in 2004, he threw 49 touchdowns. And in 2005 year, he didn't throw as many, but he still threw a lot, and he still was an all-pro quarterback. And they basically steamrolled to a number 1 seed that year. But this is what I expect the Bengals offense to become. I just expect them to always be on that consistent day-to-day, week in and week out offense that can show their explosiveness, be dynamic in the run game. There's a reason why you didn't keep Joe Mixon and you decided to trade him away. Well, at first you cut him, and then you got fortunate with trading him and getting something in return for him. This is why you decided to go with a guy like Chase Brown and Zach Moss as your new combo. You need to create explosion in the running game. And I need that from this offense this time. That is my number one expectation that I will bring to them. As far as like when I'm watching this team this upcoming season, I need to see them be better. The addition of Justin Ruscati, I think that is going to play dividends really well for this team because you got to expect, like, let's say, Dan Pitcher, if the offense just absolutely just turns a corner so quick and they're humming, then expect Dan Pitcher to become like very buzzworthy in terms of his name becoming a new head coach for teams next to the following year and whatnot. He can be one of those guys like a Ben Slovak, the Houston Texans offensive coordinator, that can get head coaching buzzes all around and stuff as early as next season. And that's because he's just the offensive coordinator for the Bengals, playing alongside with guys like Joe Burrow. If that happens, you got to be ready to have somebody to take over that job. And that person can definitely be Justin Ruscati, or they can go outside, whatever the case it may be. But I have a lot of expectation from this offense. I do feel like that this is the team that's the side of the ball that's going to carry to carry the whole nucleus of the team, like they have in the previous 2 years that they were great. And I think that while the defense is undergoing some soft rebuilds in certain areas, and while we're unsure about some position groups, the offense should be the one that should be constant, that is always going to be there for you no matter what. So, high expectations from this offense this year.
We got a what's up from Big E Bronco. We got a Broncos fan in the building. Not to be trusted, not to be trifled with. Tim, I'm gonna throw that over to you. Good stuff there, Justin. I really, probably my favorite thing I've heard so far with OTAs and minicamp was that snippet from Joe Burrow where he wants to dictate to the defense. I love that. Tim, what's your expectations for this offense going into the year?
Like, I don't know. Like, honestly, like right now, I'm at this point to where I don't know what the Bengals are going to do. If they're going to come out there in a wishbone formation, or if they're going to come out there in a shotgun, 4 or 5 wide receiver set, Gesicki sitting in a slot. I don't know what I honestly don't know what the Bengals are going to do.
I'll give you a hint. It won't be the wishbone.
I know. That's why I was trying to find the most ridiculous run formation on earth. The wishbone,
the wing T,
let's bring it. You know what? Let's bring back what the hell was it? The Star Wars formation that that we had at one time, or
it was Hugh Jackson and Andy Dalton in 2015. Yeah, that was nice.
Let's bring that back. But honestly, no, like I said, I don't know what we're gonna do, to be honest with you, because we have good running backs. We have a good running back room. We have the top quarterback in the league. Our wide receiver core is looking good. Minus T Higgins, because he's not with us right now. He hasn't signed that franchise tag yet. But tight end room, is like, that's another questionable. That's a mystery. That's a mystery box for me, because we got Gesicki.
The next part of this is the rundown going through position group by position.
Okay,
group.
Never mind. I won't even go with it anymore, though. But I'm hoping that we have, I'm not going to set the bar high for our offense, because I don't want to get my hopes up. But I'm looking forward to seeing what 2024 is coming. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to shut up.
Well, Tim, you know this about me. I've had my heart broke before. So I'm going to let my hopes go wherever they go. I'm going to let it roll. Rather than to have loved and lost.
I'm getting old, bro. My heart can't take it no more.
Rather to have loved and lost than never have loved at all. And I got to be honest with you. I feel like some things are coming together. Maturity levels we talked about.
Yeah.
I think this kind of last dance for T. I think he's going to go out there after having a subpar year last year and do his best to ball out and go get. He's watching these guys getting $30-35 million. If he goes out and balls out, he's going to get one of them contracts. So I think you're going to see him do everything he can to ball out. I feel like some of the changes that were made, and I don't mean to throw shade at this man. We had a discussion about the difference between you being a great Bengal great Bengal, Tyler Boyd. But I feel like him being gone opens our offense up a little bit more because he was so pigeonholed into being that slot receiver. I think you're going to see a lot more formations, a lot more motions, a lot more things going on. I'm really excited about it. I took the flyer bet on Joe Burrow. I think he's going to have a huge year. I think he's got a lot of guys to spread the ball around to. I think you're going to see more from Chase Brown. I think you're going to see more from Zach Moss. I think Zach Moss is going to be better at picking up run blitzes. I like the direction of the team on the offensive side of the ball, and I think they're more dynamic and open up. I think they were low in the league last year, partially because of Burrow started off not being able to move,
right?
Partially because of offensive line woes. They got better as the year went on as well, but we were low as far as yards per passing attempt. I expect that to go up. I think we're a top 5 offense this year. I'll say it.
Nothing wrong with that, saying that, making that statement too, because again, it's one of those things where it's like they've already shown that they can be that. And it's like just returning back to the level that that they can play. And I think that they found that last season when they played the 49ers on the road. In the hostile environment, the 49ers were coming off a 2-game skid. Everybody thought that this was their bounce back game. You had the honoring the 80s Niners team coming in the house, and you're playing the Cincinnati Bengals, a team that they've beaten twice in that Super Bowl during those times. And it was just all set up for them to have this nice bounce back time. Yeah. And then not only that, we won that game, and it wasn't even an upset. It was just the Bengals just made that not even close, to be honest, even though the stat lines probably didn't indicate that.
That was in the one short period of 121 snaps or whatever it was when the big three were all on the field healthy together. They were the number one ranked offense in the league.
Absolutely.
So I think you're going to see something along those lines again. And I don't think we've seen Joe Burrow be really good. We've seen Joe Burrow drag a team to the Super Bowl that probably wasn't ready to be there.
Right.
I don't think we've seen him be great yet.
No.
And I think he's great.
Yeah.
So I expect to see greatness out of him. And I think this is lining up to be the year it breaks out. So now we'll go from offensive expectations into position groups. What you're seeing, what you're feeling, how you feel about this year. Let's go. The expectations for position groups. We're going to start with the offensive line. And since, Tim, you wanted to talk about position groups, we're going to let you start this off, and then we'll kick it back over to Justin Lacey. But you go ahead and let me know what you think of offensive lines going into this season.
Just like you just talked about the 2021 season where Joe Burrow and the Bengals took it to the Super Bowl, and, Joe Burrow was sacked. Oh, my gosh. So many times we thought we were going to get Joe, breaking Burrow, season 2 for sure. But and it was a season 2 breaking Burrow, but Burrow didn't break, thank goodness, and took us to the Super Bowl. But for the offensive line now, we added Trent Brown and Orlando Brown, and added Mims and Matt. What's that center's last name? Scott Smith. Matt from Miami. Anyways, the
Kid
center.
from Miami, we got late. It's looking really good. Yeah.
Yeah, he's looking really good. We still got Ted Curris and Kappa and Volson. So we have a better. I think we have a better offensive line now, and the way that they're saying Mims is looking pretty damn good. I know I said damn, but I'll say it again. He's looking pretty damn good. They're saying that Mims might have a better chance of becoming a starter than any of the rookies right now. So, with Trent Brown, he's got, I don't know if Trent Brown is he back in the house? Did he
Yep.
show up to mini
He
camp?
showed up to minis.
Okay, so he did show up to mini camp. He didn't come to OTAs, but he was seen in the building, prior to. So I'm not going to give Trent Brown, a lot of crap for it, anyways. But like I was going to say is though the whole point to me starting off about the 21 season was I think we have better protection on that offensive line than what we've had in a while. I know our right tackle position has been a revolving door. I believe that Mims or Brown, whoever they put over there at right tackle, we have a right tackle that's going to be there for the next 4 years at least.
Well,
So
I don't know if you saw, but in a jumbo package at minicamp, they put Trent Brown at tight end and covered him with put him, at right tackle and covered him with Mims as basically a tight end on a jumbo package. And those two dudes standing beside each other, you get a real appreciation for how put together Mims is, knowing those guys are basically the same height and 10 pounds difference.
Yeah.
I mean, Mims looks svelte next to Trent Brown because it's so well distributed and he's so muscular. And I mean, he's just put together. The dude's just put together.
Yeah.
Justin, we'll throw it over to you. Offensive line, man. What's your expectations for this position group this year?
I expect them to be much improved. They're more athletic, as you mentioned about in Marius Mims. He was a draft pick that at the beginning when we were talking about draft prospect and stuff and who we can pick at 18. And I heard that Mims was going to be one of the options. I wasn't high on it in the beginning, but that was because I'm going to be honest, I was alarmed by the amount of starts that he had in college. That was it. I didn't really dive into his tape like I should have done. And I'll admit that on the air. However, since then, I have dived into his tape and I'm impressed by what I've seen. As you already mentioned, his physique, his build is just like, dude, it will be a long-standing tackle for many years to come if it all works out for him. And he should be. This is the first time the Bengals have invested a high draft pick, and I mean first round draft pick in the Joe Burrow era. And you hope that this is one of the only times that it happens, unless we have to draft a future replacement down the road that you for the future of that next team down, whatever the case may be. But overall, my expectations of the O line is that not only that I expect them to be much improved, I expect somebody to stand out as one of the better left tackles or right tackles or guards in the league or centers. Even I don't care. I expect somebody to stand out to create that massive value of production for themselves and for the position overall in totality. But the key anchor there is center because I like Ted Karras, but you got to think life after Ted Karras as well too. And I get it. A lot of people are high on Matt Lee, the seventh round pick out of Miami, and he might be one of those guys that's the future. But we haven't seen him take any snaps yet in the pros. And we just hope, and I know hope is not a strategy, as you like to say, B Dirt, but we hope that our guys that are in waiting in the wings, waiting for their turn, can finally step up and deliver when their number's called upon. Because I think that's always been the problem is that when injuries happen, we never had nobody confidently enough to step into the fold and then just play like it didn't even matter. Cleveland Browns lost a number of guys on it during the injuries last year, and yet Kevin Stefanski still had that team afloat. Joe Flacco was still playing some of his best ball at 39 years old, and they lost Dewan Jones, who was their standout tackle that they got out of Ohio State in last year's draft. They lost him during the injury during last season. So there's not any excuses. Now we can talk about schematics and all that stuff all we want, but at the end of the day, it's about the Jimmies and Joes more than the X's and O's for me. And I think that the Bengals have definitely supplied the Jimmies and Joes with the Cincy skyline. And I'm just expecting them to finally build that pipeline to a successful offensive line for the first time in Joe Burrow's career. I thought that they were solid last year. And even in 2022, before injuries caught up to them, I thought that they were solid then. They just didn't gel together quickly enough like we had hoped for. And then by the time injuries took a toll, it was a little bit too late. But last year's team, that O-line was not bad. Jake Browning, when he was playing quarterback, didn't get hit like that. Remember, against the Indianapolis Colts, how many times did Jake Browning get sacked in that game? 0. But nobody's talking about that. But when they play bad, everybody and their mama's talking about it. So I just want the Bengals O-line to finally be a conversation that's in the past. And funny enough, it's kind of became that this offseason. Nobody's talking about, oh, we got to fill out sure, the guard spots maybe and the depth pieces there, but nobody's really talking about the O-line being a problem this offseason. That's what's making me feel better about it.
Yeah, I feel better about it. So I think my expectations for the offensive line this year is that they are improved, but I still expect them to have some struggles here and there because they've got some new pieces that normally takes a minute to come together correctly. And I also, if you want me to throw my hope in there, we like to hang hope out there a lot. I hope that Cordell Volson is who he was the last 6 weeks of the year, because if not, I expect him to be replaced the following season. So that's my hope and expectation on that. Now, I think the guy's got a big upside. He played really good last year at the end of the year. I really hope for it. I think he's a good kid. And I like the nastiness he brings to the table. You know what I mean? If you're going to put that jumbo on that right side, have Trent Brown over there with the Marius Mims, I like Volson pulling and heading that way with them. Mm-hmm. That's a good jumbo package. Let's do that a little bit. But that's my expectations for the offensive line. Before we keep going with the rest of our expectations here for our position groups, we're going to take one more quick break, hear from our sponsors. Thumbs up, like, share, tell a friend to tell a friend, and we'll be right back after these messages. Welcome back to Running Through the Jungle. Once again, you've caught myself, Brandon Herriott, with Tim Lyons and Justin Lacey. We've keep this offensive mindset on the track. We will be offensive all night. We're going to go tight end room, which kind of a fun one. It's getting a little interesting over here after being a patchwork deal last year. Tim, what's your expectations for this tight end room?
A hell of a lot more than what it was last year. You need me to say anything else? We got Mike Gesicki. I think I feel like this is going to be probably Gesicki's one of his better years since he was with Miami, and and he had that one season. But I believe that Gesicki's going to have a better year this year. We got Drew Sample. Is he playing a hybrid tight end fullback position?
H-back, fullback, tight end. Yeah.
So that's what we're expecting from him, which is great. Especially if we go into a jumbo package, maybe run a jumbo package with him back there, maybe with Zach Moss or with Chase Brown running the ball, a counter or whatever to Brown and Mims side, and you have Volson pulling and going over there. It can be interesting.
But I think football for sure.
Yeah, and that's not something that we've seen in Cincinnati for a while. Ever since Joe Burrows came and Zach Taylor, we always like to sit back and sit in shotgun formation and run these inside runs and all this stuff. So, but with the tight ends though, I think it's going to be interesting. It's just going to be interesting because we did bring on a couple of new rookie tight ends. What was
Eric All?
Yeah, Eric All and McLaughlin, right?
Yeah.
So
McLaughlin's kid out of Arizona.
Yeah. So are we going to see 12-man personnel, or are we going to see 11-man personnel? With the tight ends, we could end up doing a lot of stuff, especially if we go 12 personnel. Yeah, I think our like I said before, I'm gonna make it quick because I'm not gonna burn a bunch of time. I think our expectations this year from last year a hell of a lot better.
I agree with you. Justin, we'll throw it over to you. What's your expectations for tight end room?
I don't really have the highest expectation of this group. This is one of two position groups that I'm like not really expecting too much out of as far as production wise, but I do expect them to be way better than they were last year. I do expect Mike Gesicki to be productive. He's a veteran tight end in this league. We know he can be explosive and make explosive plays by himself. We've seen that when he was on the Dolphins. Unfortunately, it didn't work out with him in New England because it just seemed like that offense was just a train wreck altogether. But nonetheless, he's now playing for the Cincinnati Bengals. And we have pieces in place, our core pieces in place. And all he just got to do is do his job. Show up, do your job. We're not asking you to be this all-world blocker. We're asking you to be an explosive pass catching receiver, sometimes in the slot, sometimes out wide. Sometimes you're going to have to block a little bit. Whatever the case it may be, I expect great volume of production out of Gesicki this upcoming season. But as far as the position group totality, I just want them to produce. I just want them to be consistent. But it's tough for me to label expectations on this position group just because we didn't find a long-term answer. I understand that we drafted Eric Hall. I understand that we drafted Tanner McLaughlin. But those two guys, Eric Hall's coming off of an injury. Tanner McLaughlin was such a late round pick, even though there were some high praises for him on different draft scouts and stuff. But unless I see one of them fully take the league by storm and actually become such a force on this team, I'm not really expecting that from them. I think that this is going to be another one of those years where we're just going to just get by at tight end, and we're going to hope together that these teams can, like this group can band well together and work well together. We may see guys like Tanner Hudson still get some shine on. We might. This is one of those position groups where it can collapse in the blink of an eye, or some surprise candidates of production will be able to pop out and surprise us, like an Eric All, as we already mentioned. But no expectations, at least let me say this. Let me just rephrase. No high expectations as of right now. But there is expectations that you must be better than what you were last year. And to be fair, they were finding a little bit of that during the stretch where they were winning 4 out of 5 games or whatnot before Burrow's unfortunate injury that ended this season. But outside of that, man, even during that stretch, it's like there was nobody that was fully dominant. We just liked what we saw of the utilization out of the position group, but nobody actually stood out and started taking over the games. I need to see a little bit more of that this year.
Yeah, Tanner Hudson made me feel okay about where we're at. So where you're at, I think Tanner Hudson made me feel that way because, he was getting 600 some yards in 13 games. He was basically 50 yards a game. He was around the same averages, very close. If you look at him and T. Higgins, the games played, the yardage, the touchdowns, everything was pretty similar in production. Obviously, not similar in you can't just throw the ball up as a prayer and watch T. Higgins single handedly come back and beat the Vikings. But similar, and I feel comfortable with him there. I think Gesicki comes in and becomes Tyler Boyd when we don't have somebody else moving around that slot. I think he's going to have a really good year. I tend to lean more with Tim here. And I do feel like the two guys that we got, I feel better about our future than I have in the past 4 years. So I feel like we got two guys. One of those two guys I expect to stick and be a good player for us. Maybe not a great player, but at least a good player to a situation where we're not panicking trying to draft. I think it's a better pick than, let's say, the Drew Sample pick. I think both our 5th round, 7th round are both better than.
I can absolutely agree with that.
So that's where I'm at with it. But we're going to throw it over here to wide receivers. As we do, I want to read this from Biggie Bronco. He posted this a little bit ago. Denver will have the money to pay him being T. Higgins, and I think Denver trades Cortland Sutton next offseason, and he is not guaranteed any money, and that will clear $13 million more that he can go towards T. Higgins. I have to say, one, not mad about it. I think it's a good fit for the team. Big bodied receiver there with a younger quarterback. 2, I just want him to play really well this year. I mean, I don't care what he does next year because he's probably not going to be here. So I'm okay with that. Tim, we're going to throw it over to you. Wide receivers, what's your expectations for this group? It's very, very interesting.
Like I was saying when we were talking about them in the mini camp and the possible, competition wise, we got so much stuff that could happen. Jamar Chase is, of course, he's looking for his new deal. T. Higgins is, we're waiting for him to re-sign his franchise tag, or to sign his franchise tag. But these guys that are not waiting for that stuff, they're working out. They're getting better. They're putting in as much work as they can get in right now. Why T. Higgins and Jamar Chase are not playing or not, in camp or practicing in OTAs. They're getting in as much work as possible with Joe because, we want we want Joe to be comfortable with his wide receivers than anything because, look at the relationships with quarterbacks in the past, like Aaron Rodgers and his quarterbacks, or, any quarterback in the NFL. They want to have that trust in their tight ends and their wide receivers. So, letting these young guys step up because, with the missing of Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins and Chase, like I said, these guys are getting the work in. But my expectation is I think we're going to be, as long as Joe stays healthy, our expectation is going to be there's not going to be a ceiling in our wide receiver core, because if Joe can stay healthy and he can be protected with this wide receiver core, regardless if T. Higgins is on the field, these guys are going to step up. They're going to do their job. And with the addition of Jermaine Burton, I'm happy for the kid. I'm happy to see what's happening. So I'm saying is there's no ceiling for our wide receiver core.
Justin, this is how I'm going to throw it over to you. Biggie Bracco, he has a question. If Denver traded Cortland Sutton and a 3rd round draft pick to Cincinnati for T. Higgins, would you bite on that? I'd have to look up Cortland Sutton's contract.
Cortland Sutton is the jump ball king. It seems like that all his touchdowns were because Russell Wilson threw moon balls to him in the back of the end zone. I think that he does create some big play value, but nothing that T. Higgins couldn't do. So you are getting the big play ability of a Cortland Sutton when you use them in the red zone package potentially, and a 3rd round draft pick, which can yield you asset like a high enough assets into like whatever position you want for T. Higgins. And if you're talking about taking on that contract that you're going to have to pay a guy like T. Higgins, it is an entertaining offer, but I would probably say maybe like Cortland Sutton in a 3rd and a 7th. I don't know. It's an interesting offer. It's not one that I will be so quick to turn down and say, nope, I'm not doing that, because I do like the added addition of Cortland Sutton. Sorry, I messed up his name there. Is he T. Higgins? No, but he offers a wide variety of skills that is T. Higgins like, and it's like almost like a comparison.
You get 2 years, basically $17 million a year,
and also depends on and look, also it depends on what Cortland Sutton is going to want contract wise himself. So it's an interesting take. I think that it'll be a solid
2 years.
trade.
You get the 2 years.
It'll be a solid trade.
17.5 average, 17.3, and this year 17.8 next year.
And the way that the comment is going, the way that the contracts are going these days for the going rate for wide receivers, hell, Jerry Jeudy just got a deal for the Cleveland Browns before it even take off, man. And Cortland Sutton, I think, is better than Jerry Jeudy in my opinion. I think Jerry Jeudy hasn't played to his potential at all. So
I think we've done pretty good drafts in 3rd rounders too.
I think so too. And you know what? You never know. The more lottery tickets that you happen to produce, it's one of those things where it's like I would absolutely entertain that trade.
You know what? Big E will entertain. We're entertain this trade. You have your people call our people, and we'll see if we can get this done.
Yeah. It's a great conversation talking point for T. Higgins. But
Expectations.
This is the strongest position group on the Bengals team, and it's not even close, honestly. Outside of Joe Burrow and that quarterback, but that's just talk about player and only player. But this position group for this wide receiver, I expect him to perform like the strongest position group. And the reason for that is because, yeah, I understand you're not really led by the Migos trio anymore with Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Tyler Boyd, so to speak. Tyler Boyd is no longer there. Big Bro is going on to Tennessee, and I hope he does well. But Jamar Chase is the new alpha in the room as far as like he's always been that true number one receiver that we know. He's the explosive guy. He's the guy that's going to command $30+ million a year on his second contract that he's about to sign. And T. Higgins is still an explosive playmaker at times when he does play well. And we know, even though we're going to only have him for this year, it's still going to be enough to band together. And plus, the guys that's coming in on reserve, I am hearing so many good things about what Andre Yoshivas is doing in this mini camp, doing OTAs. The dudes feel like he's growing in nicely with growing into his NFL body, and it feels like that he's ready to take a different level of this position to where it's like he's not battling for the 6 wide receiver spot like he was last year. Charlie Jones is also another interesting one as well too, just because he was really good at kick returns. Obviously, he can getting better, but the kick returning the head against Baltimore, I expect him to take more opportunities and start. If he can't get on the field at wide receiver, be dominant in that. And I think that he has a potential to do that. But ultimately, everybody's not talking about Trent Irwin. He's always been that reliable guy that when one guy goes down, Jamar Chase was gone for 4 weeks. Trent Irwin stepped up when you needed him to. And that was one of the underrated things that he become one of those unsung heroes that no one really continues to talk about. But I think that the two guys after Jamar and T. Higgins is really going to be Andre Yoshivas and Jermaine Burton. I think those are the two names that you're starting to hear the most about that can really take over the next wave post T. Higgins when he moves on. And like you said, if we're entertaining a guy like a Courtland Sutton trade, hey, that would be pretty nice too. I mean, just throwing that out there. But strongest position group of the team, I have high expectations for them. How high they can go, sky's the limit. I do expect Jamar Chase to have an all-pro caliber year as well too. Continue to that. Add to his roster of being an all-pro or Pro Bowl or whatever the case he may be. If he makes Offensive Player of the Year as a candidate, it'll be an amazing thing. It's all set up for them. They just got to go out there and do it.
My expectations, nice and short. I expect Jamar Chase to get his. I think some of the other guys with, some of the guys you mentioned, Charlie Jones, Yoshi, these guys growing, Gesicki coming in, Tanner Hudson another year. I expect them to kind of eat some of their numbers. There's only one ball out there. So I don't know if somebody else is going to have big numbers, could take some of T's numbers away. I don't know. But I do expect someone to break my heart. Shedrick Jackson looks really good. Yoshi, Cole Burgess, the kid out of the D2 school. Yeah. Pryor, was it Kendrick Pryor?
Yeah,
he was a guy that we put on the practice squad and had Zach's brother take down at Jacksonville, and we were all pretty high on him after his preseason. I think there's so much talent in that room that I think you're going to see one of those guys leave, go somewhere else, and have a really solid season. It's an embarrassment of riches. It is what it is. It's a good problem to have, right?
Yeah.
Let's go over to run the damn ball. Tim, what do you think about this running back room? I know you were a big Joe Mixon fan, so I know you're a little bittersweet here, but what's your expectations for this group?
I'm gonna be a realist here. We knew what Joe Mixon could do. We knew what kind of runner he was. We knew, and last year he stepped up in the third because everybody was like, oh, he's not third down back, and he actually did really well last year. I believe he did. And now he's a Texan, unfortunately. So my question, the running back position right now is a question mark for me. The only reason why I say that is, yeah, I know Zach Moss. I've seen film. I've watched film. He can block. Passing. He can run the ball. We already know what Chase Brown can do. Chase Brown, he's going to get the ball and go 25 miles per hour as soon as he gets the damn ball and he's gone. Okay, but the thing is like over the last couple of years is the running the ball was one of my biggest things because we were either throwing the ball 69% of the time and running the ball, 21% of the time, whatever. I'm kind of like, is it going to be better than what it was last year? I don't know. I honestly don't know because I don't know how they're going to use the run game. But my expectation is I'm not going to say we're going to have a worse running year than we did last year. I think we're going to see more running than what we did last year. So I say my expectations is just a little bit, a smidge higher than last year. That's all I'm going to say.
Fair assessment.
Yeah.
Justin, running back room, what's your expectations for this year?
This is the second of the two position groups, along with tight end, that I felt least confident in as far as like volume production. I do expect them to play better and have the position. I'm sorry, the side of the ball, the structure of the offense feature more explosive rushing attacks. I like what Chase Brown did to end last year at a higher note. Catching big play screens and taking them in the distance for 50-something yards for a touchdown. That was nice. I also like to see the addition of Zach Moss and how that pairs along with it. But if we're ranking them individually and as a position group of totality, I do not know how this position group is also going to fare. And it's not like that we're expecting either one of them to be that bell cow back like we had with Joe Mixon. We all agreed that giving Joe Mixon the ball so many of those times was just not as good for our offense. There were times that it felt like that he just wasn't fitting our offense. But I also feel like that I can see that this Bengals running game be one of the worst in the NFL if it doesn't go well. And the reason for that, if I'm being honest, Chase Brown has not proved that he can be a number one running back. Zach Moss has already shown he was not a number one running back, which is why that he was a cast off in Buffalo. And when he, took the backup role to Jonathan Taylor in Indianapolis, that was a good little landing spot for him. And we're going to be asking a little bit more for him, while simultaneously we're asking Chase Brown to be more than he was last year, and he didn't even get all of the reps like that for real. So I am as least confident in this group. This is the least confident I felt in this group. However, I will say this to justify the direction of the Bengals offense, so to speak. I think that the makeup of how Joe Burrow runs the offense and how the team produces on offense calls for a better production as far as pass catching. I'm sorry, I almost got my tongue twisted up there. Pass catching out of the backfield for both of those guys. Both Chase Brown and Zach Moss can be very explosive when you have a guy like Joe Burrow setting you up to take it the distance, go to house. And he also elevates the running game too as a quarterback. And I'm excited to see that. But also, this is one of those things where it's like if the Bengals just go off for a ton of explosive plays one week, I would not be surprised by that type of rushing attack. I wouldn't be surprised. And if they happen to be the worst rushing attack the following week, I wouldn't be surprised. The running
A
game
little
is not
feast or
to make fun.
famine kind of deal.
Yeah, it's like a Jekyll and Hyde kind of thing. It's like
Okay.
I don't think that this is going to be the consistent rushing attack that we hope to see, but
Yeah.
that's not the makeup of this offense. The offense rests on the shoulder of Joe Burrow and how he elevates the entire team. And that passing attack is what's going to be what drives us to, we hope, to the Super Bowl. But at the end of the day, I need a stronger running game from them at some point. And I'm hoping that they can do that, but hope is not a strategy, as we continue to say.
Fair assessment. I will say this. I have this group out of the 5 offensive position groups dead last, right behind our offensive line. I'm a little bit higher on tight end. I got them in the middle. And I want to preface this. I was not the Joe Mixon guy. I'm going to say we got better here because we got cheaper, and we need that in certain areas. And we don't know what we have here. I don't know. I'm going to put all the onus on Zach Moss and Chase Brown yet, because part of the problem is if you're not running the ball 20 times a game, you're not going to get established a running game. Right. So we abandoned run way too soon. So part of that onus I'm going to put on the coaching staff and Coach Zach, just not calling them. So you got to call enough running plays to establish that run game. So you got the coaching staff, you got the offensive line, and you got the running backs room. All of that gives me a little cause for concern. And at the same time, I don't know if I want to call it optimism, but general excitement of this might be completely different. I don't know. So I'm still up in the air about it, but I do feel like going into the season, having this group as one of our back end groups is kind of par for the course.
Yeah,
definitely. Let's this one should be pretty quick. Quarterback room, obviously big step forward with our backup situation. We feel a lot more confident in that. So just tell me what your expectations are as far as a bounce back year for Joe Burrow. Tim, throw it over to you. What do you think Joe Burrow is going to do this year?
Well, we got that guy, Joe Burrow. I heard he's pretty good. I heard he's a pretty good quarterback. Won a national championship, won a Heisman, took the Bengals to the Super Bowl in 2021. I think the expectations, I believe this could be an MVP season for him. Knock on wood that he stays healthy. But my expectations for Joe is, like I said, for the wide receiver core, there's no ceiling. There's absolutely no ceiling for Joe Burrow. If he stays healthy, he gets protected. I think Joe Burrow, this could be a possible, MVP year for him, or even an offensive player of the year, for him. But I do have a high expectation for Joe Burrow.
Well, Justin, what would you like to add to that?
Same thing. I mean, this is an MVP. This is an MVP expectation year out of Joe Shiesty. So, I mean, I'm not going to go anything lower than that. He showed what he can do during the weeks that he was healthy last year. In 2022, we were the big dogs of the AFC. And in 2021, he literally single-handedly took this team to the Super Bowl when the team wasn't ready to be there. And we all know that. I know we complained about, we should have won the ref. Man, shut up, man. We really wasn't supposed to be there, but Joe took us there on his shoulders, coming off of a torn MCL, ACL, whatever, with that knee. So I expect him to feel like that he can truly have that MVP-like run this time around. It's all set up for him. You have a fourth place schedule, so you have an opportunity to have the best record in the conference. Yep. You also have the opportunity to basically steal the division away from Baltimore, who lost guys, even though they also have reigning MVP 2-time from Lamar Jackson. Cleveland has a better roster and one of the best rosters in the division. I think that the Cleveland Browns roster is a little bit better than the Bengals, top to bottom, but the Bengals still have the best quarterback out of all of them. And I feel like that is set up to where you can really flip the division on its head like you did in 21, coming off that 2020 season. This can be a rendition of that. And I feel like that instead of comeback player of the year, have your sights higher and expect that Joe can be one of the front runners, main 2 or 3 front runners to win NFL's most valuable player. So that's my expectation with him. And then Jake Browning, he surprised a lot of us. I didn't see that coming out of him from his play last offseason. Just offseason, we were talking about we need to get a veteran in here. And we signed guys like who? Trevor Siemian. Man, he was not good. Jake Brown outperformed him. He showed up. He played his best ball in certain spots. And we're very satisfied with him now. So I think position group, it kind of grew together because of that. And that's why I also think that could throw a hand in why Joe Burrow's operating this offseason the way he has. And why it might lead to him to have the more explosive campaign that he has yet to have so far to start the season. So high expectations for this position group.
I agree. So much so, if you haven't caught any of the other shows here on Running Through the Jungle Network, you should go check it out. Cut to the Chase, doing some good stuff. And Pay Dirt, we already had our futures bets. And if you watch that, you already know I put my money where my mouth is. The betting slip is in. Joe Burrow plus 900 for the MVP. I put cold hard cash down on it. I think he's going to have his best season of his career thus far. I really expect him to have a bounce back year. Stay healthy, and that's my expectation. So with that said, we're going to wrap this up. We appreciate you guys rocking with us in the live chat, especially Big E and Austin's Art. You guys are awesome. We appreciate you coming over here. Broncos fans showing us some love over here in the jungle. We definitely appreciate that. But you guys like, subscribe, tell a friend to tell a friend that this is where they need to come. Every week, Wednesday, live on YouTube at 8:05 Eastern Time. We will be here every week going through the weekly Bengals wrap-up and updates. So check us out or listen to us wherever you get your podcast. And you can catch us again next week as we are running through the jungle.